So this is a Neen engine from, when is it? It's probably the late 40s, early, yeah.
A Rolls-Royce engine.
Middle of the 40s, a Rolls-Royce engine.
Which is where your
yes, my
background
background, 20 years a Rolls-Royce engineer. If you look back at an old engine like this is a Rolls-Royce Neen from the 1940s, you can see it's been really heavily influenced by the drawing process. You can see arcs and curves and straight lines that they must have been drawn by hand, because that was the technology of the time.
Yeah.
The design work would have been supported by calculation rather than really deep analysis on here. It's a long time on from here, maybe getting into the late 50s and the early 60s before computational work really managed to get going and people's take on the design process changed again. Now, when this would have been designed, it would have been a very sociable process. It had teams of draftsmen and designers with large boards in a drawing office.
Oh, wow.
They would have worked together,
Yeah.
pencil applied to paper, and sketching out how something needed to be. Problem solving would have been an interactive process. You would gather around the board and understand how something needed to be compared to how it was. And if you needed to make a change, you'd get the eraser out and you'd simply change the shape of the lines. When it was time to understand how something actually worked, you'd have to go off to the build shop, make something and actually go test it, because you didn't have the deep analytical technologies to understand it.
You couldn't simulate it on a computer.
You couldn't really do the
There's no
simulation.
model.
There would have been rules of thumb which would have been based on empirical experience, how things were. Then a little bit later, as the drawing sophistication picked up, we had the introduction of computer-aided design and other techniques as well. The design teams were able to hang some pretty sophisticated analysis models off of those drawings, and they lost something when they did that. They lost the sociable aspect. The designers went back into their little individual boxes to get on with their work. And kind of everything looks the same size on the computer screen, whether you're talking about a whole engine or a tiny component. They're all about so big on the computer screen. And the process lost its flow and it lost its ease of communication. And it's taken a long time for the engineering design world to recover that. What you'll see now is there's an ever-increasing usage of things like rapid prototyping, 3D modeling, so that you can go from very much a sketch-based design into a CAD model, into a physical representation that you can pick up. You can get tactile feedback from it. You can understand how something is likely to behave functionally just by touching it, and you get a real sense of appreciation about how things join up, how their interfaces will be, maybe fitting and assembly problems. And it's probably taken about 20 or 30 years to actually recover that particular way of doing things and to develop the new technologies to support it. Something that I discovered when I spent some time researching the conceptual design process, and it was awesome to find out that where many of the very newest designs really came from was that at lunchtime the phone would stop ringing, the designers would stop getting distraction questions, and they could just get a bit of scrap paper out, pick up a pencil and just draw. And when they did that, they would make new discoveries. They knew that the moment they put a pencil onto the paper, a new idea would start to evolve and grow. And all the optimization in the world couldn't make a new design grow in the first place. It needed that pencil and paper interaction. And it was fundamentally not recognized by the business that this state of flow was where new ideas came from. Partly the designer needed to work at lunchtime because that was when it went quiet. It was also, I'd say, not recognized as value-adding work by the organization at that time. They didn't understand that's where the new ideas actually came from, because obviously, from a certain point of view, at a certain point in time, being productive equals being busy.
It's kind of like there's a term called whole brain thinking, but it's kind of like whole body thinking.
Yeah,
in a sense, isn't it?
People can be much more expressive when they are looking at a representation of an idea, and you can look and see their body language as they're trying to understand how is something actually working, and they can move in close, they can stand back, they can express frustration, and as a trainer you can intuit an awful lot about their learning process and work with them in a much more effective way.
You're gaining an insight or a window to their personality.
Yes,
and
yes.
character. So I get what we're saying is that we might not think that drawing or working through problems on a whiteboard flip chart is that sophisticated anymore. It's kind of passé. But the reality of it is probably one of the most sophisticated ways for us still to work.
Because it has that unifying or that integrating effect. It helps you to bring out all the elements that are important. It's not simply about communicating this line joins to that point. It's about understanding the why and the how.